Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 1348. It's Mike Matthews broadcasting from Cafe Anyway, located somewhere in Podcastro Valleymont. Today, Matabrú de Vega Valentino, Bison Bentley. We will bring you this segment. We'll call this one News Random. We got some couple of random news stories going on, and we will find out what happened to me with
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Basil the Boxer. A very bizarre incident happened yesterday.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I was just trying to wrap up my Monday on a nice warm evening, and I walking Basil the Boxer, but it was deceiving because all of a sudden, out of the blue, came a dog that was brown, and let me tell you, this beautiful brown chocolate lab walks over.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
And he's sniffing Basil, and, he wants to do as some dogs want to do to each other.
Mike's
where they,
Daily
as this one dog,
Podcast.
They want to dominate.
Yeah!
Which involves them getting on top of the dog and dominate them, which this dog is much bigger than my dog, and he first tries to do it. Basil goes brr, brr, in his face, but the dog keeps coming at him, and so I start to walk away, and this dog keeps coming back, trying to get on top of Basil. This continued for 10 minutes. Look who just walked in. For 10 minutes. And I got to the point I'm pushing the dog off of Basil constantly. And then I'm telling the dog, go home. But the dog has no tags, no collar, has no owner around. Look who else walked in. People are walking by. No one's helping. This is a thing about Castro Valley, by the way. No one ever helps anybody. This happened to me before when Basil had hurt his paw really bad and he's bleeding. We're on the sidewalk, he's bleeding. No one lifts a finger. So, yeah, it's terrible about Castro Valley. So I finally go, we got to make a break for home. We just got to go. And we're running. As we run, the dog runs faster because he's bigger and he's younger. And he's trying to get on top of Basil, who's almost 9. And we finally get to my house. And my friend, I had to kick that dog in the face because he wanted to get into my house. Yep.
And here's today's podcast picture.
It's a picture of Mike kicking a dog in the face. No. I would never, ever. It's against everything I'm for with protecting dogs, but this dog was aggressive to the point of he was probably going to come right into the house, and kicking him in the face. It was it was more of like a push with my foot. Still didn't do anything. He still wanted to come in, so I ended up throwing a water bottle at him. And that scared him. It didn't actually hit him. It kind of hit the ground and made a big noise. And then he sort of ran away. I think at that point, he got it that he wasn't welcome there. And I was mortified that he was actually going to follow. I'm like, this dog's going to follow me all the way to my house. This is ridiculous. And I blame not the dog, but the stupid owner that would allow this dog to just roam around like that in a very heavily populated area. What if my dog is pretty big, not as big as this lab was, but what if I had a tiny dog? What would happen with this big lab just being so aggressive like that? Crazy. So keep an eye out for that big chocolate lab. Actually, more importantly, keep an eye out for the owner of that chocolate lab, because that owner is an idiot, and that owner needs to be locked up. The dog should have a wonderful life. He was just totally wanting to dump. That's all he wanted to do with my dog. Crazy. So that my day ended very stressful, in a very stressful way. So a bunch of people walked in. Hello, Mike Matthews. It's Matabrú de Vega. What a riveting story. Ooh, I was in a cartoon. You were in a cartoon yesterday. And look who else is here. Hello, Mike. This is Valentino, the parking attendant. And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that? Mike, Basil sounds like he had a tough day yesterday. Yeah, once we got into the house, though, and there's a cool part of my house. It was so hot yesterday, too. But there's a cool section. He was able to chill out and chill down, and things were fine. The podcast picture, meanwhile, is not of that situation. I didn't even have... I didn't have a free hand to take my phone out to take a picture of this dog. It was that sort of stress. But this is a picture... We go back in time, my friend. Back in time to 10 years ago, just about. 10 years ago, I visited Nashville. I was living in Alabama 10 years ago, just about. And we would go up to Nashville, my then wife and I. And the first time we made it up there to the Opryland Hotel, I had been to the Opryland Hotel before, but my then wife had not. So we went there, and they got this huge atrium, and it's an interesting looking thing. So I took a picture of that, and that's a picture from back then. And sort of keeping in the theme of the country crossroads, wrapping up that radio station. I'm no longer on any country radio anymore. So just sort of thinking about that in Nashville and whatnot. See that picture now at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST-1348-Myriad and all the ways you can help out the show. There's an Amazon link. You can click on that and buy whatever it is you're going to buy. That helps us out. There's also a PayPal if you'd like to help us out that way. And there's all the past podcast pictures and past interviews that I've done with a myriad of artists. You can see pictures of Basil the Boxer, too. He is also featured on the website, MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. And if you do help us out through the PayPal, you'll get a special greeting from all the Cafe Anyway characters. There's so many. A myriad. Myriad. And that's going to be the name of this show, Myriad. Because we have a myriad of stories to get to with News Random. Actually, we only have 3, so let's do that right now.
News Random.
And now we return you to our regularly scheduled program with Mike Matthews.
The big one, the shocking one, the Ariana Grande concert that was hideously bombed by Islamic State. They have claimed responsibility for the attack yesterday at Manchester Arena and said it was carried out with an explosive device planted at the concert. And this was a statement the group posted on Telegram. One of the soldiers, it said, of the caliphate was able to place an explosive device within a gathering of the Crusaders in the city of Manchester. A suicide bomber killed at least 22 people, wounded 59 at a packed concert hall in the English city of Manchester in what Prime Minister Theresa May called a sickening act targeting children and young people. Theresa May said police believe they knew the identity of the bomber, and police then said a 23-year-old man had been arrested in connection with the attack carried out late last evening as people began leaving a concert. They were actually leaving the concert is what it was. I thought they were actually just there watching the show, but I guess Ariana Grande was already done. But they were leaving the concert. All acts of terrorism are cowardly, said Theresa May, but this attack stands out for its appalling, sickening cowardice, deliberately targeting innocent, defenseless children and young people who should have been enjoying one of the most memorable nights of their lives. The attempt to divide us met countless acts of kindness that brought people closer together, said Theresa May. The northern English city, I know I say that a little weird when I say English city. I want to say something, yeah. The English city remained on high alert. The northern English city. And by the way, I've been thinking a lot about Manchester lately because I've been listening to a lot of Morrissey and bands from Manchester. I believe, was it New Order from Manchester? So many great bands are from Manchester. I think Happy Mondays was. But There's a song that Morrissey does. I traveled north again. I traveled south again. I got confused. I killed a man. I can't describe the way that I feel. Typical Morrissey lyrics. Anyway, Cafe Anyway. Just horrible. And of all places, Manchester, for this to happen. And it remains on high alert, this town. A Reuters witness said they heard a big bang at Manchester's Arndale shopping center and saw people running from the building. Police said they were dealing with an incident inside. The shopping center reopened soon afterwards. London Mayor Sadiq Khan said more people have been ordered onto the streets of the British capital. More police, rather, had been ordered onto the streets. Monday's attack was the deadliest in Britain since 4 British Muslims killed 52 people in suicide bombings on London's transport system. This was all the way back in 2005. Attacks in cities including Paris, Nice, Brussels, St. Petersburg, Berlin, and London have shocked Europeans already anxious over security challenges from mass immigration and pockets of domestic Islamicist radicalism. And Trump, of course, you've probably by now heard that he gave a big speech in Saudi Arabia yesterday, actually over the weekend, where he was discussing how we need to fight terrorism and wipe ISIS off the face of the earth. Ariana Grande, though, is safe after that explosion. She was okay after the blast, but her rep said the singer is in hysterics. Broken from the bottom of my heart. I am so sorry. I don't have words. She tweeted about 11 o'clock last night. And she's put the rest of her tour on hold. Then, something lighter for you. Instagram has decided to take away a couple features, and you probably didn't even notice. This according to the Next Web. If you tried sharing your Instagram post to other social media accounts in the last day or two, you may have noticed the available sharing options have been trimmed down slightly. As it stands, there are options for Facebook. That's not going to go away because Facebook owns Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr, and nothing else. Yes, it's amazing that Tumblr is still on there. People still use Tumblr. That's why I still have my mikeblogs.tumblr.com account and a mikesdailypodcast.tumblr.com account. And you can find me on Twitter at Mike Talks and Facebook at Mike Talks and Mike's Daily Podcast. Do you get the feeling something's missing but aren't sure what exactly? Here's what it is. The Swarm and Flickr options are gone. Foursquare Swarm, the check-in app that lets you earn points for every time you check in, and Flickr were removed from the share list last week with little apparent fanfare or warning. Swarm confirmed on Twitter that the integration has been removed. And a Flickr staff member addressed the situation on the Flickr forum, citing this pending removal as the reason for Instagram's refusal to fix a long-standing bug. Flickr's Twitter also retweeted an IFTTT workaround for sharing Instagram posts to Flickr. Apparently, IFTTT took notice of the situation, and that bums me out because I posted my Instagram photos to Flickr, and then I had a link at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com right next to the podcast pictures, so I'm going to have to take that away. All the always changing, never-ending changes that happen on the web as we go outside a cafe anyway, where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcaster Valley. I love labs. I have a friend named Diana who has a wonderful dog. What's Diane? I always call her Diana. Dirty Diana! Ow! Diane has this wonderful dog named Buddy, who's a lab. The nicest dog ever. But this chocolate lab yesterday was... You could tell the owner was an idiot. He had not trained this dog correctly. Didn't even train the dog with the basics. So... Basil made it through, and all is well. Ah, what a myriad of things will happen to you at the end of a warm day as the sun is setting and the evening rolls in. Just before that, by the way, I should have posted the picture that I took just before that happened because it was a nice sunset. Oh well, I'm sticking with Opryland. If you ever go to the Opryland Hotel, though, and you have allergies, you might not want to actually stay there because I am told that with all the plants they have in the terrarium, this huge terrarium that you see the podcast picture, people get the allergies, the pollen and whatnot have no way to get out of the hotel, so you're stuck breathing that, and you can come down with a nasty sneeze. I knew someone that went through that. Not to spread muck about the Opryland Hotel, but I did, just before this incident happened with the lab, I spoke to Steve and his wonderful Eskimo Husky, Simi is the name, and I've been seeing Steve now for 8 years, walking Basil the boxer. And I started talking to Steve, and Steve's not very talkative, but when he does start to talk, oh my gosh, it was kind of bordering on the conspiracy theory land. At one point I wanted to tell him, you need to do a astronomical show like Neil deGrasse Tyson, but he was telling me about some things. Like, first off, it started off in a sane sort of way. He was talking about the eclipse that's going to be happening later this year, a big lunar eclipse. Apparently you'll be able to see it really well in Salem, Oregon. Salem, Oregon apparently is like the epicenter of this big, and I work for Salem Media, so that's interesting. But he also then went on to say, we started talking about Planet X, which apparently our solar system is a binary solar system. We have a planet that intersects with our planets called Planet X. And he goes, when that hits the Earth, we're all going to die. And he goes on. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to go home because I got to be up at 4 a.m. He goes, I hope what I told you doesn't give you nightmares. And I'm like, it did. Bye. So Planet X, my friend, that's another thing. In the sky tonight, maybe you'll be able to see Planet X, and hopefully it's not coming right at us. There's a myriad of things in the sky. He said, though, one of the interesting things about a lunar eclipse is, he says it will become nighttime, and you'll be able to see stars and constellations that you usually will never see this time of year. And he was telling me all about the different constellations. I didn't know what he was talking about. But that's the end of this show. I hope you enjoyed and knew kind of what I was talking about. If not, I hope you enjoyed this show. And my name is Neil deGrasse Tyson. Neil deGrasse Tyson has a nice warm voice, though. I could listen to him for hours. Next show, it's going to be the wonderful Shelley Shuhart, Floyd the Floorman, and John Deere the Engineer. Enjoy your day.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Email Mike now at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!